An expert NASA panel tasked with analysing and studying unidentified flying objects held its first public meeting on Wednesday in Washington. The 16-member panel was formed last year. It's set to release a report into their findings next month. The panel says while most have a rational and reasonable explanation, some incidents remain a mystery to science and better data is needed.
To understand UAP better, targeted data collection, thorough data curation, and robust analyses are needed. Such an approach will help to discern unexplained UAP sightings, but even then, there's no guarantee that all sightings will be explained.
Well, joining me now live for more is Jacinta, writer at Cosmos magazine. Thank you so much for joining us, Jacinta. I've got to ask firstly, will we ever truly find out what these so-called mysteries are?
That's a really good question. I hope that this particular set of research and this project will get us closer to being able to work out what's happening here. And I think it's important to note that I'm pretty sure even the scientists that are working on this don't think it's necessarily going to be aliens. But the fact that we don't know is really interesting for scientists in a lot of ways. And so having that little bit of extra information and trying to find out more, I think is worth doing either way.
Oh, absolutely. And NASA does say, though, that many of those sightings can be explained. So what do they think that they are at the moment, or is it too early to tell?
There's a lot of different things that can happen. There's a lot of different UAPs, as they call them, unidentified anomalous phenomena, that have come up in the last few years. I think there was 140 something that they had on a list that the Pentagon released a few years ago. One of the ones that I thought was quite funny was that in Australian research, they heard this radio burst through telescopes that they weren't sure about. And as they did the research more, they looked into it more, they couldn't work out what it was until they realized that it was happening around about lunchtime. Turns out it was just a microwave going off in the office. So these things, there's sometimes really scientific explanations for them, and sometimes they're just things that, we probably should have realized beforehand.
Yeah, so some things could just be your average household item and not a UFO, but I guess that's what they're trying to find out. One of the interesting things that NASA said, some of the team members said that the biggest roadblock to understanding the phenomena out there is a lack of data. Why is there not enough data out there?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of reasons why that's happening. The biggest one is that people still believe that UFOs are not a scientific phenomena, which makes sense. You imagine the flying saucer, and that's kind of not what they're looking at anymore. These kind of things, if you see something in the sky and you don't know what it is, that the researchers really want people, especially military personnel and things like that, to be getting that data and to be giving it to them. Because if they have that information, they can look into it and try and work out what it is. But if you see something in the sky and you think, oh, I don't know what that is, it's probably nothing, let's ignore it because I don't want to seem like a crazy person, then that actually is bad for everybody because we just don't have that information out there again.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very good point. It's interesting because NASA has spent years debunking UFO sightings. It's always been something that they've opted to keep quite quiet. Why the change of approach here suddenly, do you think?
Yeah, so they were doing this research for a number of years as part of the Pentagon. So it was all under wraps. It was all something that was hush-hush because they didn't want it to seem like aliens have landed and been around in society for years and years, which is, of course, fair enough. And I think we've moved past that a little bit, obviously not in some circles, but I think a lot of people are aware that, maybe there's aliens out there. They're probably not living among us. And so what I think is really good is that this new investigation has said that they really want to be open and transparent. And that means to me that we're able to get more information as a public. So we can actually look at this information, particularly when the paper comes out in a couple of months. And hopefully it also means that the researchers can get more information as well. So it's a two-way street here, and we'll be able to look at this all more cohesively. And I'm hoping it means that we can get to the bottom of what these things actually are, whether or not it's aliens.
Well, that's it. So, if you're standing there and you see something flying through the sky, what should you do? Do you report it, or do you just say, no, best to not do anything just in case?
Well, I mean, now we all have mobile phones on us. We all have, little recording devices in our pockets. Definitely take a video. I mean, I think it would be interesting to find out what it is, even if it does turn out to be, a hot weather balloon or something like that. But from there, what the scientists are really looking for is high quality data in more than just, a shaky video footage, like what we see a lot of UFO sightings are. So if there's any scientists out there that are doing this experiments, having as many different versions of the particular data is really good. So, if instead of just a picture, having a picture and sound, or having pictures from multiple angles, or having maybe radio telescope data at the same time as having pictures, all of that kind of stuff really helps be able to create a more cohesive picture, and the scientists can, work out what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Good advice. Jacinta Balla, writer at Cosmos magazine. Great to speak with you. Thank you so much for joining us.